Welcome to the Relaunch Your Career podcast. I am your host, Leah Lambart, career and interview coach and founder of Relaunch Me, where we help you find the work that you were meant to do. Welcome to the second episode of the Relaunch Your Career podcast, How to Choose the Right Career. In this episode, I'm going to run through the key steps and the most important things that I believe you need to think about when choosing the right career. So what I'm going to run through with you today will be applicable if you're a high school student, a university student, or an experienced professional thinking about a potential career change. So the first really important part of any successful career change is self-assessment. So what does self-assessment mean? This means really deep diving into what you're good at, what you're interested in, what is important to you, and what comes naturally to you. So in the work that we do at Relaunch Me, the first step that we look at is looking at personality type and understanding where your natural strengths lie, what work tasks come naturally to you and which ones don't, and even more importantly, what type of work environment that you will thrive in. As you probably are well aware, there's many different types of work environments out there, and they don't suit everyone. So the first step is really understanding what motivates you, what drives you, and what comes naturally to you in the workplace. So once you're aware of what your natural strengths are, we can then look at careers where you will use your natural strengths most of the time. It's my belief that if you're using your strengths, that work shouldn't feel like work. It should come really naturally to you, and it should energize you. So I mentioned in my first episode that my first career was working as a tax consultant in an accounting firm. So I actually loved, when I first started working there, I really loved the people that I worked with, and I really enjoyed the social side of that firm. However, once the novelty of the environment and the social events and the beautiful offices in the city wore off, I found that I really had no interest in the work, and it just didn't come naturally to me. So in hindsight, it's now very easy for me to see why it didn't suit me. Working in a tax consulting role, the key strengths that you need are research skills, problem-solving skills, analytical skills, and these are definitely my weaknesses, not my strengths. So I've recently become accredited as a strengths coach, and as part of this training, I obviously had to complete a lot of strengths self-assessment on myself. So my personal signature strengths are strengths such as relationship building, building rapport with new people, communication, empathy, humor, and compassion. But working in tax, I didn't get to use any of these strengths at any time. In fact, the only time that I probably did use these strengths was after hours at Friday night drinks or in the lunch hour, which definitely wasn't part of my job description. So once you know what your strengths are, it's looking at work opportunities where you will get to use these strengths, say 60 to 70% of your time or more. And the research around strengths shows that when you are using your strengths, people are more energized, they're more engaged in what they're doing, and as a result, they're much happier in their work. So this is why we start off looking at personality type and getting a high-level understanding of where your natural strengths lie. So the second part of self-assessment, which I think is really important, is understanding what you're interested in. So this may sound quite obvious, but often we fall into careers where we really have no interest in the subject matter. Again, going back to my taxation experience, I never even really thought to ask about the work, which sounds crazy. I was courted by recruitment consultants and going to lavish graduate cocktail parties and was more excited by the fact that I'd be working in the city in a big office and wearing a suit, rather than even thinking about or asking about what actual work I would be doing for 40 or 50 hours a week. So I can tell you that unfortunately tax, the actual subject matter, did not interest me. And I knew this because whenever we were in training sessions or learning about tax, it would just go in one ear and out the other. I had no interest in reading anything in the Financial Review after hours or researching anything about tax rulings or new tax cases. I just had no interest whatsoever. Compare that to now as a career coach, where I just absolutely love finding new books about careers. Every time I go to a bookshop, I buy a new career book. I'm listening constantly to podcasts about careers in the car. I have about 6 books lined up on my dressing table of books that I want to read. So I'm constantly seeking new knowledge in this area because it interests me. So I think it's really important to think about what you are interested in. And that doesn't mean you have to be completely passionate about something. I feel that often people are not actually passionate about anything, and that's okay. But you still have to have some interest and be energized by what you're doing. The third part of self-assessment, which I believe is really important, is values. Values are what is important to you and how you live your life. And as many of you will know, that values do change over time. So what your values might be when you first choose your career in your 20s may change extensively in your 30s and 40s and be completely different. If you're not doing work that's aligned to your values, then it usually means it's not personally meaningful to you. So a values assessment is a really useful tool to see why perhaps your work doesn't feel right for you and why it's not personally meaningful. So after you have completed this self-assessment, hopefully you'll come up with a list of potential careers that interest you. So the next key step is research. And this doesn't mean online research. This means actually getting out and talking to people working in those jobs and finding out what that work actually involves behind the scenes. As I mentioned in episode 1, we're going to be interviewing some people in different jobs so that we can share that with you, because we do understand that it's quite difficult to sometimes find people in fields that interest you. And not everyone is comfortable with approaching strangers and asking for time with them or to go out for lunch. So the most important thing you can do is have as much research as possible so that you can be really sure that you know what you're getting yourself into long before you actually choose a course. So the research should help you start to perhaps rule out some options, but also narrow down to maybe 1 or 2 options that you believe will really suit you. And then the third key step is experimenting. So what I mean by experimenting is actually taking action to test these different careers out. Now, obviously, if you are thinking about being a doctor or a nurse, you can't go and just be a nurse for a day, but you can go and do some potential free courses online in healthcare to get a taste of what the course might be about. You can go and have meetings with nurses and interview them about their jobs. So the more time you spend with people in that field, the more sure you should be that you are making the right decision. So if you follow these steps, you will have a much higher chance of choosing a career that is right for you. We often have very well-meaning friends and family giving us advice, but you have to remember that your personality, your values, and your interests will be different to theirs. So by following these steps, you will hopefully find a career that is your best fit career, not someone else's version of a best fit career. In future episodes, I'm going to be talking to you more about using personality assessments and strengths assessments to help you find the right career. hope you enjoyed this episode of Relaunch Your Career. If you did, please subscribe, share with your friends, leave a review, or connect with us on social media at Relaunch Me Career Consulting. If you have any questions about the episode or the work that we do, then contact us via the website relaunchme.com.au. Thanks for listening. Have a great day.